So today I'm going to grab the mini excavator that we affectionately call Precious and go out to our big compost pile all the way out across the pasture. And it's just an area where we've been stacking all the logs and trees as we do property cleanup. A lot of those logs have got buried, so I'm going to go in there and just kind of sort out a bunch of 6-inch and smaller logs so that I can chip them and finish up that garden. And it's always a good day when I can use our excavator. Once in a while the excavator gives me a code, and it's basically the fuel level, and that's what it's doing right now. It's not recording the fuel level, and it's telling me it's got an error code. No big deal though. I usually just turn it on and off and it goes away. Grease is life for machinery, so I'm gonna go ahead and lube up the bucket. I'll do like a full greasing every, I don't know, 10 or so hours, but we don't put a lot of hours on this excavator. You know, 1 or 2 hours a weekend when we use it. And what I'm doing now is just cleaning out these grease cavities with a screwdriver. But if you don't grease this bucket area here, sometimes these pins don't accept grease. So by putting a little bit of grease in all the time, it keeps these passageways clear. This thing has so many grease fittings right here in the bucket area. Every one of these pins, any place that metal on metal is hinging or moving, there's a grease fitting. It has a schematic on the side of the boom that tells you where all the grease fittings are. This grease fitting here doesn't want to take grease. I'm not going to do it today, but I will have to pull that grease fitting out and put a little drill bit or a little screwdriver in there and kind of clean that out so it will take grease. All the rest of them are taking grease really, really good. But I actually got that one to break free. I just put a little more pressure on it. But I've got her all greased up. It's time to get to work. This is our big, we call it our compost pile, but it's where we dump all our debris, our limbs and tree trunks when we cut down trees or just general property maintenance. We pile it all here. And we brought a whole bunch of new piles here when we cleared the site for a new pole barn. That's older stuff up there where we had a company come in and clean up some bigger trees, and then all of this is from the pole barn site. These right here are cedar logs I was keeping, but they kind of decomposed. So I think they're gonna have to be burned to clean them up. So I just wanna get these bigger logs onto a pile, kind of separate that brush, and then pull out more chippable logs. And of course, just have some fun on the excavator. Every time you get off a Kubota excavator, you've got to reset the thumb so the hydraulics will move the thumb. Then you're all set. Now that's an oak log, so that will actually probably rot in the next couple of years. But those cedar logs are taking longer to rot, and I waited too long to try and get them to a mill. So we're gonna have to do some burning, but I can't burn until we're here on the property full time. So what we're gonna do is just kind of separate, get a good burn pile. We'll probably have to move this stuff again, and then just grab the dirtier stuff and go that way. As I go along, I'll try and shake it out so I have cleaner stuff to burn. But you'll never be able to get it completely perfect. There's also a lot of stumps in here. I don't know what that is. That's a cedar stump. Just like a pine stump, they get all the sap down there after the tree's cut, and they'll take a really long time to rot. Like they'll petrify before they'll rot. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. It's just hard to find 4 or 5 hours just to work this compost pile. And the ultimate goal is that all this stuff rots down, mixes with the dirt that's here. There's pine needles here and leaves and bark and all sorts of other things. Eventually all this will end up in the garden, or it'll end up on the pastures to just kind of help the soil out. We're here in North Florida and our soil's pretty bad. That's just a lot of dirt. So I'll go in there and grab those 6 and 8 inchers and kind of get them clean. Like the ones sticking out right there, they're perfect ones for chipping. Kind of set them to the side. I said earlier in the video that I had a code, an error code with it. And when I filled the fuel tank up, the error code went away. Just kind of the way this excavator works. I'm sure it's just a sensor, but I don't want to spend any money fixing it. I can always look in the fuel gauge or look in the fuel tank and see if there's enough fuel in it. That's a good chipping log right there. And what I found by chipping, when I actually want the wood chips, as opposed to just, you know, cleaning up the property, is you can certainly fill the trailer up a lot quicker with these big 6-inch logs than if you're trying to do little branches. You look at some of these logs and you say, you won't get a lot of wood chips out of that, but a 6-foot, 6-inch log, it only takes about 10 or so of them to fill up the bucket on the tractor. That's a pine stump. That's not going to rot anytime soon. Put that over on the burn pile. This is mainly brush here, so if I can get this buried under some dirt, this will become some good compost in a short period of time. It won't take long to rot at all. I'm making good progress here, but there's bigger logs than I remember putting here, so there's not as many chippable ones. This Piney Grove also just brought me a little breakfast snack, a late breakfast snack. She couldn't stay, so you probably won't see her on the video. She's got a lot of things going on in the house. But these little short pieces of firewood, those right there, they don't chip well at all. You can see they're just totally covered in dirt, and dirt's not good for the chipper blades. But I've moved a good section here, and I've only got a few logs. You'll see over there on the other side of the excavator. Just gonna take this pile and keep working it that way, and if I have time, take that big pile and kind of mix that up too. Definitely making some progress, but it's not going the way I thought it would go. Behind me by the excavator, you can see all the big logs and trunks from the pole barn clearing, and there's more of them than I thought. I remembered those trees being smaller when I was cutting them up. Then here's my chipping or chippable logs, and although it doesn't look like much, I don't know, there's 20, 25 there. If I chipped all them up, that would be enough probably to fill the tractor bucket with chips, and that's a good amount, but it's not as many of those smaller logs as I thought I'd find. But I came in here and separated the pile, so all that was all one continuous pile when we started. We got the big pile of logs, and then I used the blade on the excavator to push this up. And that's so much dirt in there and so much little stuff that I don't think I'm gonna try and make this all one pile. I think I'm gonna come over here and grab this dirty stuff and grab this and put over here and make this a big pile, and then have a driveway or a pathway in between here, because that's the older pile, this is the newer pile, and I want to work that one. I don't really have much of a plan here except to pull out things that aren't going to rot and put them in a burn pile for the future, and then pick out things that I can chip. Otherwise, I just want that stuff to be buried under dirt, let the termites and the bugs eat away at it, and turn it into things that we can put in our garden and improve our soil. If you're looking at this and thinking all I see is a big mess, well, you're right. I think it's a big mess too. We're not going to bring any more stuff over here to decompose, because as I got into this part of the pile, these things have been here, these logs have been here for at least a year, maybe 2 years, and they're not breaking down as quick as I want them to. So I did find a treasure trove of chippable logs here. So I got some good, 2 to 4 inch logs. They got more dirt on them than I would like, so I've got them exposed so the rain will wash them off. But I've got my pile separated here. We'll talk about that in a second. But what I'm trying to figure out on this original pile, we'll call this the OG pile here, there's a lot of logs that have decomposed in there, and a lot of that is very nutrient-rich material, but I want to turn it over to keep it rotten or keep it breaking down. But there is the exposed smaller logs. That's a new pile that's stacked with brush and dirt on top of it and just kind of mixed up, so hopefully make it rot quicker. There's the burn pile, and there is another chipping pile. Definitely making progress and definitely having fun, but I don't know that I'm being real efficient with this. And there's just way more here than I thought once I start getting into it and moving it around with the excavator. That's the back of the pile. You can see the boom of the excavator, so you can see how tall it is. And this is a pile over here I've been chipping. You'll see some wood chips over there, and I also hauled a bunch away already. But I want to kind of consolidate this pile, move it away from that pine tree there, and just kind of make this look a little nicer. And that's really what all this is about, besides improving our soil with the wood chips, is just making the property look nicer in the front. Let's see if we can get in here and clean up this greenery and get some some open space going there. I got my mic off, but I just wanted to show you how big a log will decompose, and that is almost ready to put in the garden right there. So these are probably 4 or 5 years old, but then there's other ones up here that haven't decomposed as much. But that's what I'm looking to do, get it all to do that. Look at that, nice compost. The big stump right there. I'm glad I did that. I was able to push through there and then pick up the things that were rotten, and most everything is way more rotten than I thought it was, even the 18-inch logs. But I got this pathway here, and that allows me to pick up sticks for the chipper, right? That's the reason why I'm doing a lot of this. But also just kind of mixes the pile up, puts dirt on top of things that didn't have dirt before, and mixes all those insects and termites and everything up, and lets this decompose even further. I don't have a lot of time left, but I want to get this little bit of dirt and logs put on top of the pile there, and then this little pile cleaned up, and then I'm going to call it a day. That's all I've got time for. But made a lot of progress. Remember, that was all one continuous pile, and now there's 3 different piles there, and then this pile is a lot more organized and mixed up. One thing I've found with an excavator is they're a great tool. I love it. I'm glad we have one. And as a second machine, I think there's no better second machine for our situation after a tractor than a mini excavator. But man, time just gets away from you. It'll be a 12-minute long video for you guys, but I've been doing it for hours and I love it, and it's fun work, but it's slow work. And to make a big difference, or to make a difference on a big area with a mini excavator, it just takes time. We got a bunch of family coming to the farm today for a late lunch, and I can see our entrance, so I know when they start coming in that I got to be done. This is like at least 60% dirt, and we didn't put dirt here except for as we cleaned out amongst these pines, so just surprised that there's so much dirt. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to bring any more stuff here to rot down. This will be the last of it. This is the front of our property, and we want it to be clean and kind of organized looking, and having multiple piles out here is not really achieving that goal. If I had a vibratory screed, which is basically a big screen with some sort of agitation on it, I could actually screed this out and have some really good topsoil. One thing I'm shocked about is I have not seen a single snake today, and it's warm, 70 plus degrees, and these are all, brush piles where snakes like to hang out so they can find something to eat, like a rat or a mouse, and I haven't seen any sort of snake, and we have all sorts of snakes here on the property. I'm gonna go ahead and close out this video, but before I go, I wanna show you how rich this soil is. We're always complaining about the soil here at Piney Grove is very, very sandy. It's northern Florida, and there's still sand in here, but there's a lot more organic matter, and it just looks a lot richer. That's the whole goal, is to turn this waste product into something usable. That's gonna wrap up today's video, folks. We sure appreciate you watching. We'll throw up a couple of links here to a couple of our other videos, but until next time, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard.